Okay, in this brief video, we're going to look at basic coding for the Music Programming Studio here. Just coding, not using prompting or anything like that. So we'll just focus here on the studio and the editor. So what is programming music? How do we do it? Well, there's a manual you can see up here, and you can check that out, which covers a lot of what I'm going to talk about now. But let's just look at some code. If we want to make music, we're going to need some parameters. Let's start with a tempo, and we'll make this tempo 60 beats per minute. Then let's have an interval, and we're going to make the interval whole notes. So whole notes at 60 BPM, so that's a note every second. And then we have some beats, which is an array. And in this array is where we're going to put our noisemakers. For this example right now, I'm going to use music notation symbols, and then we'll show how to play the music. So for starters, I'm just going to put some notes in here. Okay, now we're going to create a phrase. So let's say phrase 1 equals new phrase. Then we put the tempo, the interval, and the beats in there. Now, if I hit Shift Enter or Command Enter to compile the code, or click Run Code over here, we won't hear anything yet. Because these are musical notes, we need to send the phrase to an instrument. So we'll say phrase 1, send, and then we could look at the instruments and see there's hundreds of instruments to choose from. So let's just pick a basic, let's pick the kalimba. And we can see it's number 118. So over here, I can simply put number 118. Now if I compile the code with Command Enter or Shift Enter, we should hear something. So we can hear it's playing these notes one after the other. But let's take it to another level. What if we wanted to have a chord? So let's say C major equals this object bracket notation. And in here, we can put several notes. And what this means is that they'll all play at the same time. So if we change this to C major, and this one to C major, we'll now hear something different. Now we can change the octave of the notes, of course. We can also change the relative duration of the notes by doing x2, x2, x2. So now these notes will play twice as long as their standard interval, which we can see is 1. Now let's actually switch to another instrument. Now I've typed return at the top. What this means is that any code below it will not get compiled. So therefore we have silence. I could also have hit stop up here. And if I try to run code, nothing will happen because of this return statement. What we're going to do now is continue working with this beats array and do subintervals. So we're going to replace this one right here with a subinterval and put some notes in it. We'll go So what we've done now is we've put 4 notes where there was 1. And because the interval was a whole note before, this is going to be quarter notes, because 1 divided by 4 is a quarter. So now we'll hear quarter notes when it gets to that. So we'll run code. Now we can also send the phrase to multiple instruments at the same time. And if we have a MIDI channel, we could send it to the MIDI channel. Now, I know I have MIDI channel 1 here, which is aliased as MIDI 1, and that's IAC driver bus. That's a Mac OS MIDI bus, which any program can listen to or send events to. So if I have another program running like GarageBand, now this will also send these same notes to GarageBand. I don't have GarageBand open right now, but if I did, then I could go over to GarageBand and we could choose instruments there and hear the sounds coming, and it would still play this instrument and this instrument, and it would give us whatever we choose over on in GarageBand. Now let's look at adding audio samples. So I'm going to just add a bunch of samples here. So I've added all these samples from a drum machine. These are all drum samples, and you can see that these are aliased as with their variables too. In this case, $sign and the number, compared to £sign and the number for instruments. So let's create a whole new phrase. Let's call this one phrase 2, and you can see I'm using a shorthand function, the P function, which is equivalent of saying new phrase like this. And then I can, if I want to, I can simply put the tempo and interval in like that and write the beats as well. So we're going to add, first we'll add some hats to it, which is in this case number 14. So $14. And then let's actually change the interval. Now hit Command Enter. So now we're referencing samples directly, and these are being played because we have the samples. There's no need to send unless there's notes being played in the phrase. But in this phrase, it's all samples. Now you can upload any kind of sample and put it in here. I happen to be using drum machine samples. And then of course, if we want, we can play multiples. So I'm going to put a kick. We'll put a kick in there. Kick drum. We have a few to choose from, 11, 12, and 13. So let's choose 11. And then let's do the same thing in the subintervals here. And we'll use one of the different ones. And then here, let's add a snare. Where's the snare? Okay, we have some snares to choose from. We'll choose 7, and we'll add it to here as well. Again, we're using the object notation to have samples played at the same time. Now we can also always edit while it's playing. So let's change the open hi-hat to a cowbell. Let's make these intervals longer. These intervals can go up to 64. These will overlap. We can take instruments out. On the return statement, again, anything below it is not going to run. So the phrases will not be created or sent, no sound. So what we want to do now is record. So let's record, and we have two ways of doing it. We can use this button right here while it's playing, or if we click the button, it'll start playing. Stop recording, continues playing, but we can see down here it created a track, and if I click on this, it will download it to my computer. Of course, it's already on the computer. Everything in here is running on your computer in your web browser. So let's look at the UI just real quick. We have, of course, run code, which is the same as pressing Shift Enter or Command Enter inside the editor. That's just the short key. Record and stop. We've seen these. We've got samples, a list of instruments, list of MIDI channels, list of new recordings, and then we have sessions. So sessions are created when you load the app. You can create a new session right here, and then your sessions are saved. So we see if we click this one, it brings up another session that I had, and I can go back to this session, and here we are. And then I can also add tabs to a session by clicking over here, and if I double click it, I can change the name. So, and then up here we have example code. Right now there's just a couple of them, but there'll be more coming soon. So let's load some example code. Here we have an upbeat version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And you can see it's quite a bit more complex than what we were just looking at. but it's the same thing. Here we have choosing instruments and just giving them a variable name so that we know where they're going. We have tempos and intervals. I've set them all to 2/3 because I found that sounded good with this particular version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. Then we have melodies, and these are beats arrays. You can see there's just arrays. And then we have a full melody. Yep. And then we have a full melody, which comprises the 4 melody parts. Then down here we have chord definitions, and comprising the chords in another array, some bass patterns, bass composition, drums. Now in this case, actually it's using an instrumental drum, number 169. It's not using samples. This example has no samples in it. It's only going to use instruments. So back down here, we have a drum loop. Again, it's just an array, full drums, which comprises the drum loop. And then down at the bottom, finally, we have the actual phrases: tempo, the melody interval, the full melody, the full chords, the full bass, and the full drums. These are, of course, arrays, as you can see. And then down here, we're finally sending the phrases to their instruments. So now all we have to do is run this and listen. Here it didn't start right at the beginning. That's because the clock is always running. But if we want to, we can reset it. And now I'll hit Command Enter. And I forgot to mention that we can also record by calling the record method. That's the same as clicking this button once. Did that, and if I do it again, it's the same as stopping the record. So I'm going to compile the code. I just compiled the code one time, and that started the recording. And now I'm going to compile it one more time, and that should stop it. And down here we'll see a new recording track. So there it is. Let me hit stop. So these are just helpers. Reset is useful to reset the clock to 0, and that will ensure that your song starts at the beginning. Let's load another one. We have Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Again, we'll reset it just to make sure it starts at the beginning. Stop it, I'll just click stop. So again, a little simpler than Mary Had a Little Lamb, but it's basically the same thing. And this is just one way of doing it. Actually, both this Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle Little Star, both of these code songs were generated using the AI prompter. Now you don't have to use the AI prompter. You can just make music with code and upload all your own samples, and I've done that a great deal, and it's a lot of fun. I recently added this prompting AI, which does a very good job, and that will be the subject of the next video. This app is available at folkstack.com. You can register to use the app. It's free to use the studio itself, and you can purchase credits for prompting the AI.